What's up, you nerds? Welcome back to Yellow Spandex. You're here with the boys, and today we're talking about Stranger Things Season 3. Also, P.S. I wrote an episode for episode 9, which doesn't exist in the thing yet, but I'm putting it together, y'all.
But you should write a review on Apple Podcast. What's it called?
I think it's just iTunes, right?
iTunes.
Where you listen to the podcast for Apple. Apparently, most people listen on iTunes or Apple.
So you'll probably listen to it on there. Write a review.
That's right.
Hopefully
if you
a nice
downloaded
one.
this from there.
Whatever you feel like. It helps a lot.
That's right.
Wherever you listen from.
Thanks.
And here we go.
And here we go.
I don't even know what to talk about this week. All the stuff like we had cool stuff with, like, kind of is over.
Yeah, although we're 3 episodes into Stranger Things. Are you into...
I have not. I actually wanted to save it until I got home. But you know, you guys can go ahead and talk about it.
Well, there's not much to talk about, because we're only like, 3 episodes into an 8-episode season is kind of like it's just all the setup anyway. And also it's so early in the... That's a weird thing that I think we're still trying to figure out as a society, is like, what is the etiquette for Netflix binge shows? Because it used to be...
I think people don't give a crap. I see stuff all the time. People just... Especially Game of Thrones stuff. It was like immediately following.
Well, I guess like non-asshole people. Like, well, I mean, Game of Thrones is something different because it's like the episode airs, and then there's like a week or 2 or whatever. I don't know how long they had between, but Stranger Things, it was like all at once. So it's like everybody's watching on their own pace. So like one of my friends, her and her husband, like they took all of the 4th of July, just stayed in and watched the entire season.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's only 8 episodes. I mean, it's like
it's only 8?
Yeah, it's like 8 hours. Is long, but very doable in a day if you have a day off, And then, like we watch like 1 episode whenever there's time. Might need to binge a little bit because VidCon's coming up, and I don't want to like make that in the middle of the whole thing.
Did we talk about last time that I went to that fair thing?
Yeah, a little bit. Mentioned it.
Oof. It was. I didn't go to the fair thing. I went there with my kids, and I wanted to get there at like 8 in the morning. So I was like, "Hey, kids, we're gonna get up at 8 in the morning." Nah, that did not happen. And so we got there. I think we got there at 10 when it was supposed to start. But you can't find parking for
Santa Monica Pier, right?
Yeah, you can't find parking anywhere. Plus, they took the whole top parking of the pier, which normally I love to park at. And so the whole thing is there, and you hear there's like a band going, and there's like a big mirror, like, room or whatever, like at a fair. It's like supposed to be like a fair. I didn't get to go in. When we got there, finally parked and everything, it was like 2-hour wait at least. That was what they told us. And I was like, well, maybe if we wait a little while, and we get some lunch and go to the beach. Yeah. No, the line easily was at least double when we left.
God.
And so someone told me it was like 6 hours afterwards.
Yeah.
Wait. I don't even know what it was.
In West Hollywood, they did the Starcourt Mall. They're having it right now, actually.
Oh, cool.
And I think it sold out in the first day or something.
Jeez.
Well, sold out.
They actually sell tickets?
They're all free, but you RSVP tickets and stuff.
Oh, okay, cool.
It was kind of like when we went to the Happy Time Murders thing. We met our friend Mike there, who was the like vice president or president of Sumerian Records. So like big deal. Like he manages corn. So,
yeah.
So like when we met him there, it was because he couldn't get passes for it. We're like, how can you not get these things? We just signed up really early and had extra ones just in case. But it's mind-boggling, like how like I guess that's the currency in LA. When everyone like there's a lot of people that don't have money, but when there's a lot of people who do have money in the city, the only thing you can really make valuable is exclusivity.
Yeah.
So if you want people to like really want it, then you got to make it like super like exclusive, which kind of happens naturally because Santa Monica Pier is like really tiny.
Yeah.
I mean, in movies it probably looks a lot bigger, but when you're there, it's like, all right, see everything.
Yep.
You can stand
walk
in one
down
spot
it and you're like, oh, that's it.
Unless
I feel like Navy Pier in Chicago is much bigger.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I think the only part that's bigger is on Santa Monica Pier. If you walk out onto the actual pier, then there's like stuff. But as far as like the carnival and everything, you can stand in the middle and just like look at everything. So having like a pop-up event there, man.
I want to propose this idea. I have this idea for the 9th episode of this season, season 3. It's going to be called Stranger Things.
Strangest things will be after that.
And then all the episode consists of is me walking around after everybody left after filming.
In like Atlanta?
Yeah. Like they're taking down the sets and stuff, and I'm just like
Oh, this is cool.
standing around like, hey,
You know
what
what's
do you
funny?
do?
I think at this point, the series is so popular, they just probably like leave the sets because they're like, it's going to be like 3 months until we come back here. You know?
I don't know. Are they going to do another one?
Well, okay, so I'm not sure because it always depends on the success of a season. And I mentioned that to Vince because like we're watching these kids grow up, and like 3 years for kids is like eons.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what I say. They look way
sprout.
older.
Yeah.
So in the first couple episodes, there was one specific time when they flash back and you see them playing D&D in the first season, which is now.
And that's like,
it doesn't
wow.
seem that much older. And I think they put that scene in there to prove that they're like not kids anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, look how young they looked, you know?
Yeah.
Well, so one of the reasons I say that is like our friend Romina, you should check out the video if you haven't seen it. She lives in Atlanta. She did a tour of like all the Stranger Things locations. So she went to that mall. It's actually still a working mall.
Oh, cool.
It's just that it's like half dead. So they took the section that's mostly dead and like quarantined it off. And the stanchions you can see over, but it says no photos, no pictures and stuff. And so you'd have to use enough effort to like see
Pull
in
yourself up.
that someone would catch you. So I think they've been done filming for a couple months now, and that whole thing is still set up.
That's
So
crazy.
it just kind of makes you think like they're at least optioning it, right? Especially with a set as big as half a mall.
Yeah.
It's probably something I don't know,
they
but
should let a bunch of YouTubers run around in there.
that's probably already what they're doing. They're probably like creating content right now for it.
Yeah, maybe.
We're gonna
But-
see that.
I'd say last time we talked about Spider-Man and right, and one of my friends is like, Morpheus. You mean Morbius, Josh? And I was like, oh, sorry.
I was wondering about
Vince
that.
was talking about it, and I was like, huh, for a second? And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, Morpheus. And I was like, well, no, it's Michael Morbius. Yes. I think I said Robbie Robinson, too, instead of Robertson. So,
Yo, I like that
Sorry.
people are listening.
Yeah,
exactly.
I was wondering about that because I was like, I don't know the actual names. I'm not going to correct it. Morpheus sounds like the Matrix.
Yeah, that's why at first I was like Morpheus, like when he was talking, and then like it's like, oh yeah, and then I still didn't like
Today-
remember it was Morbius till like later. That's why we're like actually casuals. You know? Like yeah, no, we know, we just sometimes forget.
Today I was listening to our friends Chris and Ruthann. They have a weekly live stream called Nerd Rage. And they were talking about like the Little Mermaid controversy. And in the middle of it,
goodness.
they mentioned like, oh, so Ursula is going to be Jenny McCarthy. And they said Jenny McCarthy like 12 times. And I in the comments, I'm like, Melissa McCarthy. Melissa McCarthy.
Was it
And
live?
It was live.
Okay.
I think it was like
Jenny McCarthy. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking like Jenny McCarthy.
yeah,
That's
I
a
felt bad. 'Cause I was
Very
like,
big difference.
but I don't know. So I was like, oh, that sucks. And I know if I was in that position, I wouldn't have caught it and just kept rolling too. And I was
Sure,
like,
yeah.
Oh, that sucks.
I say the wrong thing almost 90% of the time.
But
Jenny McCarthy would be great.
On facts and stuff like that, I'm terrible at this.
although I know everybody's talking about the Ariel part, and I've already said everything I was going to ever say about it on Facebook or Instagram. So if you want to see that stuff, just look on one of those things. Because the bottom line for me on that part, because I know I talk about race and filming a lot, is that she's perfect for the role. So regardless, it's really great. She's a YouTuber, great singer.
Yeah.
But the other side of things is people are talking about like who's the rest of the cast going to be? Like Aquafina has been confirmed for it.
Yeah,
I don't know what
she's Scuttle or
Sebastian.
something.
is she going to be Scuttle?
That's what I heard. I don't know.
That's amazing.
I don't know if that's right.
I don't know. Either way, Aquafina in like a movie she's just a hilarious person. That's gonna be hilarious. And then everybody's talking about like who's gonna play Ursula. And there was this thing of like,
Jenny McCarthy.
yeah, right. People were saying, well, since she was based on Divine, the drag queen, it'd be cool if it was like a drag queen. I don't know enough about Hollywood to know if that's like a good
I
decision or
imagine
not.
probably not going to do that.
Well, it's kind of like in Hairspray. It's a tradition to have that one character John Travolta played as a drag queen.
Yes.
That was also based on Divine. So like Titus Burgess from the Impossible Kimmy or
Kimmy Schmidt.
Unbreakable
Yes.
Kimmy Schmidt.
Yes.
Unbreakable.
Titus. There's a video clip going a little bit viral right now of him singing "Poor Unfortunate Souls" at like some benefit night or whatever for him. Not for him, for something else. And people were like, "He would be a perfect Ursula," and I'm like, "I see it." Because you see like his eyes and everything. Because he's also like a bald black man, and he's done drag, I think.
And he could totally wear it.
And he's also a Broadway singer. So I was like, huh, wouldn't be the worst choice.
I'm down with that.
I'd be more down with that than like them just picking some random A-lister. Like Angelina Jolie is going to be
Jenny
Ursula.
McCarthy.
I've
Yeah.
heard Queen Latifah.
Queen
She was
Latifah.
originally supposed to
Damn,
be it.
that,
Yeah.
And
I like that.
I thought that was really cool. I think if I remember right, that was its own controversy. And I was like, she was purple. Come like,
Oh, I don't know.
like come on, like, she was purple. But I would love that. And then there was also Todrick Hall, who's another YouTuber. Who I could see them not doing that because of like that's a like in the world of Hollywood probably like a smaller name. You want to use on something big like that. That's why it was such a big leap for them to use Halle. I think Halle Bailey. One of the reasons they went with her is because she was discovered, or her and her sister were discovered by Beyonce.
Yeah.
So there's like a big name there, but also like I think it's gonna be. Did you end up seeing Aladdin?
Nope.
I think it's gonna be like the Aladdin movie in the sense of even if the live action remake sucks, she's gonna be awesome. And so in Aladdin, the movie for me was like but the girl who played Jasmine,
All that.
awesome. Like was she made it worth seeing.
Yeah, which
And
is kind of like
Samarios.
they went out of their way in that movie to make it as much like the other movie though as possible as you could in real life. So it's kind of weird that they would. I feel like with this one they're going to try to be a little bit more artistic, obviously with the first casting choice. So it's like, so what are they doing? I've heard that possibly they're going to do more of like a Caribbean vibe kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
I guess part of the arguments with people talking about like if she should be like a person of color or whatever, people are like, but there's enough sunlight down there, so her melanin.
Oh gosh,
I was like,
that's the wrong argument. To
yeah,
make,
I was
bro.
like, also mermaid.
I'm like,
But-
if that's true, okay, you're gonna go the scientific route, because there's an argument to be made, okay. And in fact, this was I just had her up here on my phone. Something Bianca today, Rebecca Bianca today. She's
Rebecca Bianca
that's her
today.
name. Or no, Bianca Renee today.
Bianca Renee.
Wait,
She does like a great
Oh.
breakdown about like how she's excited, and at the same time, she wouldn't necessarily call for like replacing someone like that in a known property. She's like she thinks that it was a little bit more like I also heard someone also say like giving someone a bone, or kind of like the sloppy seconds of like the white people stuff. She's like, kind of like, we want something more original, kind of like this comic that I was reading the other day. This new comic that came out called Arrow, to where like instead of kind of trying to like take an older comic and kind of like piggyback off it, or like introduce it and like, oh, this is the new person, the new Iron Man, or this, they're like, this is a new character. And everybody seems to like it. Like, so it's just kind of like, that's how like she and her husband are coming at it from.
it's funny. Bianca is a friend of our friend Spanky Valentine's. I was like,
Oh,
that sounds
cool.
familiar. Oh, because they did the hair thing with Spanky.
Oh, nice.
It's an interesting.
The video is really great. I mean, like
Yeah.
if any of those, like she's like on both sides of it. So it was very cool.
I could see that. The one I lean a little bit more towards seeing this because I love Halle so much. Like her and her sister's music
She's
so much.
great. I watched some of those videos. It's nuts.
Yeah, like even I think the first videos were when they were like 8 or 9 or something, and I'm like, what was I doing when I was that age? Like I think I was like breaking
Playing
He-Man
Mortal
action
Kombat.
figures. No, I was a little bit older by then. 10.
That's true.
No, but like, that and also like this is a little bit of a gray area because the Little Mermaid existed before Disney, and I know this is like the Disney.
Most of
adaptation.
those existed before Disney.
Yeah, so that was the
Cinderella, even Beauty and the Beast.
So that was the thing. It was like all these things kind of exist. I guess Aladdin arguably is the one that's a little bit less because it was part of like the Thousand or Nights or but like it's like, well, these all kind of existed before then, so you could always argue like that happened. I don't know, but in this like fantasy world, especially in something that's like all fantastical beasts like the squid monster, and talking crabs and all this stuff, just let it be whatever. Like so far, the casting makes sense of anybody. Like if Melissa McCarthy's going to be Ursula, Aquafina, and Halle Bailey, like those names alone just sound like a great ensemble I'd want to see like in anything. I'm like, oh, that's going to be really, really funny. Also, I love that us included, but other like straight guys on the internet are like so defensive about the Little Mermaid. It's just really like everybody loves this.
It's true.
Yeah,
It's
like-
when you take a property though, like that you've watched like a billion times, and it's around that time to where it's like our age. Like I think that came out when I was like 8. I think so. It's kind of like you really hold it. I think that's the first Disney movie that we owned on VHS. I think was that
Little
one.
Mermaid, huh?
I remember when I was little, I didn't even know the difference between action figures and dolls because at that age, it was like trying to talk to my parents about my confusion in marketing. So I didn't know it was marketing at the time, but like they would tell you G.I. Joe, the big action figures, those weren't dolls, those are action figures. But then the Barbie is a doll. And I'm like, what's the difference? It's like, so, and then for a while, I think a little bit, I was like, so does doll mean woman and action figure mean man? But then I got like a Scarlet G.I. Joe action figure. I'm like, no, I'm confused. Like,
I would say though that like the dolls didn't move as much as most of those action figures, though, which is why they were action figures,
Yeah,
as opposed to dolls.
I mean, you get that later.
Freaking Oreo!
But
I
as
dropped
like
it.
a kid, I'm just like
No, I'm
they're
saying
the same size. Like Barbie and G.I. Joe can get married, because they're the same. You know what I mean? Like it. And when you're playing house, it's like G.I. Joe fits in. Like when I was at my baby,
you must have had the bigger GI Joes then.
I had both.
Barbie's like sky, or like GI Joe's like this. Barbie's
got a
like
story.
So
Yeah,
I'm saying the bigger action figures because like when I was older, I ended up getting like the ones that everybody knows now.
Okay.
And G.I. Joe started as like a 12-inch
Yeah.
figure, and I didn't have like the old ones, but like I had a lot of like the I guess I don't know if they were reissues or whatever, but I'm old enough that like at some point in my childhood, they were like a good section of the market, even though the smaller ones became way more popular as I got older. So anyways, as a little kid, I was like, what's the difference, I remember after seeing Little Mermaid, I was like that. I want a little Ariel action figure. My dad's like, nah. I was like, okay. I mean, like...
I don't think they had action figures for Ariel, though.
No, they were dolls.
Yeah.
I was like...
Me and my sister used to play, and she had the Barbies, and I had all those big X-Men figures.
I had those too.
And that's how we got along.
So that was another thing I would like ask, like how...
Turtles
like,
had those too, remember?
The big figures are figures, and then the doll, and like, I don't know.
And then there's figurines,
Yeah.
which
so
are
it's
really small.
It's confusing as a
It's
child.
just terminology. That's
right.
And so like I think I like the adventure of the movie and everything. I mean, just everything. Like she was like a great singer. She had cool songs. There was like she was magical,
Yeah.
So it was like it was just part of the kid. It wasn't like any like any statement of any sort. It was like I just want the toys from like something I liked as a child,
Yeah.
So like my dad's like, no, you're not getting that. And I was like, okay. I mean, I didn't put up too much of a fight about it because like. It's a kid's like
It's your
attention
dad.
span. Well, it's a kid's attention span. So I think like 2 weeks later, another movie came out, and I was like, "Now I want that toy," But
That's a great thing about like watching on Netflix or something now, to where you don't have those commercials. Because I remember those commercials, like that's what you were getting for Christmas, because you'd be like, "I want that," and just like it was just like
Yeah.
into your brain.
Interesting.
Even though like those commercials pretty much funded all of our favorite TV shows, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
But like whenever my kids see an actual commercial, they're like, "Oh wow, Dad, look at that!" And like, nope. But
Yeah. See, you had siblings. I had siblings too. We all had siblings. So my cousin Greg, he was an only child, so he got all the toys.
oh,
So me and him used to hang out a lot.
dang you, Greg.
And he always treated his toys like they were gold. Everything. He always kept every piece, and like nothing ever broke. All of my toys
Because he didn't have brothers.
broke.
well, also Aunt C probably also like put the value. She's like, I had to work my ass off for that Ninja
Yeah.
Turtle. So
I remember
He did
there was
have
like
everything though.
there was a baby.
Almost everything.
I think when I was in 6th grade, my sister,
from Indiana, so
exactly. She's like 6 years younger than me, and she saw there was this on television. There's this light up baby doll that moves her arms, and it's like, oh, I want this
think I
baby
remember
doll.
that.
And it's like,
Is it
oh,
glow
look,
doll?
it had like a funny. No, it was like a baby, and it had
Yeah.
arms that moved back and forth, and it had a rattle, and it like had lights on her head, like
I
in a
think-
crown,
yeah.
and on the rattle and stuff, and it would move back and forth, and it had played some music in the background, like, oh, this la la la, this
Like,
little baby, and we're like,
do-do-do-do-do.
and she's like, I really want this, and we get it for Christmas for her, dude. Plugs it in. It was probably the worst Christmas too
You
for
had to
like
plug it
toys
in?
was. Or, well, I guess you plugged in the batteries.
Holy crap.
And it was like, meow.
Yeah.
So it was so loud. You were like, turn it off. Turn it off.
have you guys seen Toy Story 4 yet?
No.
That's one of like the plot points of it.
Oh, yeah.
These new toys. It's Keanu Reeves' character, and it was like, man, that was the only thing that they left out of Toy Story that I've been missing, that I didn't know was missing, was like the expectation of toys being so different. It was like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like you see X-Men, it's like, oh, Nightcrawler's going to teleport. I'm young enough. I'm like, they figured it out. They're adults. And I get home, like he has a suction cup on his knee.
Two things.
Like that.
Another reason I really love the Stranger Things stuff is how nostalgic the whole setting, everything makes you feel, and it's very, like you were saying yesterday, Rod. It's very down to the detail, correct.
It's correct in certain ways that are right. Like it's I've said this before. I want to go back to the 90s that I remember, not the actual 90s.
Yeah, we had
So-
talked about that last week, didn't we?
So the 80s are the Stranger Things. they portray the 80s as we remember it, not as it was. Because they were saying, like, if the kids actually talked how kids talked in the 80s, most of them would be racist to some degree, you know? And so, but the kids don't talk like that in the show. They talk about the fun side of, like, those things, you know, like the adventurous stuff.
Yeah.
Like, they all read, like, a Choose Your Own Adventure novel or something like that, or, like, Goosebumps or something, you know? Like, it reads like that. It doesn't read like, I don't know. I'm not going to say it on here. There's like
the point of me bringing that in again was that the games and stuff like that, Dungeons and Dragons, and some we've seen other games in the set or somewhere in the background. Like it's very like nostalgic, and two of those things really resonate with me. Is Army Men. Mm-hmm. Did you guys ever play with Army Men?
There's I had those and the dinosaurs.
Yeah, the dinosaurs. Another thing is the Army Men.
Was it a game or just called Army
those
Men?
little green plastic
like,
Army Men.
Yeah.
And then eventually
up.
they came out with the space version of the Army Men. You know how like in the Army Men set, everyone had like a different weapon. Some of them were on the ground. Some of them were kneeling. They all had different poses. It was very cool.
It was like
you could
Toy
set
Story.
up. Yeah, you could set up. Oh yeah, you could set up these whole like scenarios. So I would use furniture. Like I had a big bookshelf that was empty, or not completely empty. There was some books on it, but I used to use that as like part of the environment that I was setting up. So like, you know, the higher up, the top, higher the level, and then like down on the ground, you have all these guys, and I would like sit there and like talk to myself. It's probably why I'm such a weirdo. No, just playing. But yeah, when they came out with the space ones, that was the coolest thing because then they added different colors. You can get like the gray suited with like green and red, and then you can get like a different a black suited with other color accents and everything. It just got so much more real. Well, I'm trying to think of what that second one was. There was a second toy that
was one of my favorite things as a kid. Is any of those small figures that were just multicolored. Like they were dinosaurs, they were cavemen, astronauts. Like it's anything. Like it just because they were. You know, there's that theory in like film and animation. Like the reason a lot of people like animation is because there's enough left out that you could place yourself in those shoes sometimes. Yeah. So like with the little characters, like it might be an army man, but he's so like blank face enough. Like if you needed to, you're like he's an astronaut now.
Right.
You know, like I love that.
The other thing was there was a part in one of the episodes where toys are being all like controlled by L, and one of those toys is like a disc shooter. And back in the day, those disc shooting guns, or like the disc shooting, like remember the Ninja Turtles van shot the pizzas, and then there was another one that was like a tank that shot things. Like shooting any vehicles that shot, or like the little disc guns, stuff like that was so hot back then.
Yeah.
And
I think they had to choose them to like turn them to foam.
Yeah,
because they used to be like plastic. I remember the pizza discs were plastic.
They probably used to be plastic with sharp edges and everything. Because once we were doing a video when we very first started YouTube, and we were like, we need ninja stars, but we want to paint it silver, and we wanted it to actually be sharp because now they're safe with the circle around it. We're like, where do we find like unsafe sharp ones? We're like, to the dollar store we go. We found them there, and we like took out a package, and I immediately cut myself. I'm like, perfect. Like, but that show, like our friend Chris on Chris from Than's Nerd Rage, like she mentioned like she was those kids' age in 1985. Yeah. So when 11 walks out, she, you know, minor spoiler, she goes shopping at the mall for the first time, so she buys like a dress or something. And Chris was like, I probably have a picture of me wearing that dress. Like did that pattern. Like it's just the nice thing about the 80s is like commercialism was at its peak. And in a really, once again, I'm sure at the time I was like, this is evil. But looking back, I'm like, oh, remember that? Like, so like everybody had the same clothes, you know, like even the kid, like the boys and stuff.
Well, yeah, when you went to the big box stores, there wasn't as many big box stores.
Yeah,
they were just
they were all at the mall, and so everybody shopped at the same stores at the mall. Yeah, and so like I probably had the same like little collared like 3-button shirt that doesn't make any sense. They only have like the 2 or 3 buttons. Yeah, like those patterns and stuff. The like the not quite knee high socks, you know, stuff.
I remember like people would wear stuff to school and it'd be like, crap, we are actually wearing the same exact outfit to school. You know.
Oh yeah,
I had a friend who used to bring, because we actually bought the same T-shirts from places, and he would bring an extra T-shirt on the bus in case he got on the bus and he was wearing the same T-shirt, which actually happened a couple times a year.
I fell asleep on the way to school on the bus, and when I woke up, I looked at the kid next to me and I was like, hey, that looks, you wearing the same shirt as me. And I looked down and he was wearing my shirt. He had taken the shirt off while I was sleeping on the bus.
Was it supposed to be a joke, or you just wanted to steal
it was supposed to be a joke.
Okay.
Also, did you learn something about yourself and how hard you sleep?
Oh, yeah.
Someone undressed you as a child.
Yeah. At least he was my age.
I think we need to bring this out, actually. A little bit. Turn off the cameras, guys.
It was so funny. I was just thinking to myself, like, wow, it's a shirt. The guy had my shirt. And I'm like, oh, that was my shirt. He was wearing my shirt. I was trying to remember the memory.
When I got into like junior high and high school, I would also love it. Because also, I grew up in central Indiana. So like concerts and stuff like that was like a big deal. So like when a popular musician came through and everybody went to that concert, the next day at school there was like 4 shirts that everybody was wearing.
They only had 4 shirts.
Yeah, like I'm trying to think who came through. Like even in smaller like groups, like when DC Talk came through, and like in Indiana, like half the kids were in youth group. So like half the kids were wearing one of 3 DC Talk shirts from that tour, or like I can't think of somebody else like Destiny's Child even, like. Or I think Bon Jovi came through once, and like everyone's parents took their kids to that show and stuff. So everybody had like that shirt, or even Metallica. On hindsight, I'm like, what? Why did they get like? Now you can get it at Target, but at that time you went to the show and got it. I'm like,
Yeah.
Okay.
How much were the shirts like when you
The concerts I went to, I want to say they're $20, $25.
Yeah.
Dang, really? I
think
expected
now-
it to be like $10 or something,
Oh
like
no,
$15.
I mean,
Never.
because I think now they're like $30, $35.
it's insane. I saw sweatshirts for $50.
That sounds about right.
Like I've never
Yeah,
paid
sweatshirts
that
are
much.
always been expensive, though. You talk about like hoodies?
The hoodies, yeah.
Because normally, for one, it's a more expensive garment. For 2, then you got to, if you're doing more than one on the front and then on the back, or sometimes they have stuff on the sides.
See, yeah, that's the thing. I don't know how they like
So what I learned from
set the prices like that.
what I learned from touring is a thing that's, if you wanted to know, has nothing to do with geek culture. But from touring, usually the venue takes like a cut. So there's like a 10 or 15% like venue cost. So they add that on there. And then also transporting. Like I vowed to myself, I would never do apparel again unless there was a crew with me, because that crap is so hard to manage. So t-shirts is like the minimum level, and even that is just tubs upon tubs. So I think part of the sweatshirt thing is on top of like the venue fee, like the work to transport those, because they take up 4 times as much space as a shirt.
Yeah.
So just having those is like, you're going to charge like $50, $60 for this thing. It's like, you have to add like the tax and the venue fee. And then on top of that, like these transporting it, like if you have a bunch of sweaters, it's probably going to take its own bus/truck or something just for the merch.
I feel like it depends on how big your band is right now. So if you're, because the internet's kind of made way more levels of band than what used to be, most of the bands that I would have liked back then probably only still charge about the same.
I remember I saw Johnny Lang. No, it wasn't Johnny Lang. It was Shepherd, whatever that guy's name was.
The guy in Fox News?
No, something. His last name, Kenny Wayne Shepherd. That's what it was.
Oh, nice.
And it was around that time where that Blue on Black song was big. Blue on Black, tears to the mirror, whatever it is. I remember his shirts. That had to have been in like the 90s something.
I think he was big in the 90s, yeah.
I remember those shirts were like $15 to $20. And I was trying to, it made sense to me that like it was back then, now is now, of course it's going to be more money, because everything just gets more
It should
expensive.
probably be a lot more money, but like screen printing now.
I remember it was at Kahunaville. It wasn't on the Kahunaville side. It was Big Kahuna stage.
So Kahunaville, that makes sense, because no shade to Delaware, but that's a smaller venue.
Yeah.
So like if you go see some, like, I would see people at the, I don't even remember what it's called, like the big stadium in the middle of Indianapolis. Like stuff, because when I went to when I was younger, the only shows you go to are like the really big ones. Like DC Talk had a stadium, stuff, because it was like a whole group would go out, a couple of parents chaperoning and stuff like that. It wasn't until maybe high school I started going to like indie shows.
Yeah, I just always went to punk rock shows.
Yeah, so like punk rock especially, like is like they would probably play Kahunaville, and stuff, and those places. I think there's a couple things like. At
Trocadero was another place that was like cheap back in the 90s.
Yeah.
In
And
Philly.
even nowadays, it's more of like a hardcore scene and stuff. But like if you go to like the bigger venues and the types of acts that play those and stuff, you probably $20, $25, for like the big trendy bands and stuff. But
but that John Mayer, I used to go. I probably seen John Mayer 10 times in concert.
Jeez.
And every time it was always like $50, $35, $40.
Imagine those big artists get to charge that though. I mean,
Yeah, sweatshirts, long sleeves.
The smaller
short
artists
sleeve.
can't do that. But I feel like also like I was gonna say like I've actually with YouTube and stuff and like me like doing music, looking into T-shirt printing. Like, oh, how much does this cost? Hey, can I do this at home? Hey, this or that. You know, the stuff that I'd never actually looked up before. And the innovations for that crap is pretty. I mean, it's still like the same technology, which is crazy.
Yeah, just with the screen. And
with the screens, but like. It's insane. Like you see these giant machines that are like bigger than my house, or like like there's like they're giant robots.
Yeah.
So
And it's I don't know. So getting back to like in the late 80s, early 90s and stuff, it was like a lot of fashion was unique, but also like really cliquey. So like even let's say like I remember specifically like the groups of girls in the elementary and junior high that I went to. The way they would dress, they wouldn't necessarily have the same outfit because I know that's a big no-no no matter what generation you're in.
yeah,
You could tell they all bought from like the same line, so one might have like a different pattern than the other, and one might have a different color, but it was all like very similar. And
It's all
Cringer
cut.
Things does a good representation of that because I feel like most people now when they have like an 80s party, they dress like early 80s Madonna, which wasn't like everyday fashion, It's
yeah, or like
jean jackets,
Euro
and
pop kind of,
Yeah.
like Devo kind of looking stuff.
sneakers with high socks.
So
and
in
short
Stranger
shorts.
Things, when they go to the mall, there's a couple of those people, like girls and guys, because like they're probably like the trendy, either cool or want to be cool kids and stuff. And then most everybody else is some like level in between. Like especially the little boys in Stranger Things, like they got those outfits like down to a T. Like they must have just like studied that fashion because it's really subtle. Like I feel like people who didn't live through that era they barely notice the aesthetic, because it's not a huge drastic of a change, but very like specific, like look.
Yeah. So interesting.
And when I saw Starcourt Mall, I think they showed like the first episode of Stranger Things. I immediately had like all the feels because they had like Kyle Dixon and his brother, like is it brother or bandmate, do that music. They enter the mall and you hear that synth like, doo-doo-doo. I'm like, like all the feelings.
And you see like the jazzy, whatever that jazzy
The designs all over everything.
classic jazzy designs.
And it made me miss the mall experience. And I know that is
Yeah.
an actual positive experience.
For sure.
Like,
yeah.
because now kids can escape like online and stuff. I'm not even saying that that's bad because I don't want to be one like that old guy. It's like kids my day, But I really miss like having like your time with your friends be so sacred that it was like, well, we'd go to the food court or an arcade or like go tell our parents we were seeing a movie and then go spend the money on like video games or something.
I used to bring dates to the mall. We would see a movie, and then right outside of the movie theater, there was an arcade. And then all of that existed in the food court. So you could literally do all three things, like go to dinner, see a movie, and have some fun all in one area. And then our parents come pick us up.
Yeah, my parents would just drop us off, and they might give us like $5 or something, and then you just go do whatever you want for like 4 hours. They were happy to get us out of the house.
Actually, it's kind of a funny story, and it was the first time I had met this girl outside of school. And in school, they don't wear makeup. You're in grade school kind of deal. I met her at the mall, and she had a ton of makeup on, and I was so like, oh, whoa. Like, that's a lot. All right, you ready for the movie?
It's like, first we're going to go wash our faces. Do you feel greasy? I feel a little greasy.
Let's I'm going to go to the bathroom. Here you go. Did you wash your face?
Yeah,
I mean, your hands.
I'm going to do that. I'm not saying you have to, but I am. Also, I brought you some soap. And some face scrubs.
I got it here at the mall.
But, I mean, that was another thing they got was like the Trendy Girls. And then there's that Scoops Ahoy that Steve works at and the girl he works with. She's kind of like Ruth Ann was mentioning this. I don't know if you'd call her like the gothy girl, but she was kind of like, you could tell she's the girl that listened to like The Cure and stuff. Like, she's not quite goth, but she's like working at the ice cream shop, and you can tell outside of her uniform, she wouldn't be wearing that, but she still has like a
she's like
essence
that,
about her.
She had black hair.
She's like that girl that like
she's like a brunette.
She listens like to all these bands you've never heard of.
But she's also like the coolest one, and only the youngest kid can see it. Like,
Yeah.
Steve's like It's like I'm hunting chicks, and he's like, "There's a perfect woman right in front of you." And it's like, "What?" Well, I don't even remember her name. He was like, because we haven't gotten to know her just yet because we're only 3 episodes in. But it's like, her? It's like, no. It's like, and you can tell like, well, from the outside, you're like, well, duh, she's right there. Like, Steve, go ask her out. But then you know that if you were Steve at that age, you'd be like, no.
Is it like a She's All That kind of thing too, where she's like a downplay like all the beauty and whatnot? Like that's obviously totally a beautiful woman. Like you're just dressing her in baggy clothing without makeup.
I don't
like,
Was it like the Superman complex or Clark Kent?
have you ever seen She's All That?
Yeah.
She comes down the stairs like, oh.
I should just rewatch Not Another Teen Movie.
Oh, seriously.
So they redid
thing,
the whole
yeah.
kiss me. Like, it wasn't that quiet, at least yet. There might be another character. I feel like 11 was that in Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Like the second season, or was it first
I
season?
haven't seen the second season.
Well, I think the first season, is that when they did the blonde wig and everything? I
At
think
the
that was
very
first
end, yeah.
season. So to me, that was like you're pretty now. 'Cause of the hair and like, but I don't know. This girl's more like, it's something that's only, I think it was only ever represented in like Heathers and stuff like that, because like most people think like 80s, they think like Pretty in Pink and 16 Candles and stuff. And there was that, but like there weren't very many John Hughes movies that were like the Cure chick, so that was kind of cool. Like as another thing Stranger Things is doing is like pulling in these like little corners of like the 80s and 90s that like we remember, but we forgot we remembered, so that was pretty cool.
The truth, man.
You ever seen Better Off Dead?
Oh yeah.
I love that movie so much.
Better Off Dead. Was that?
John Cusack?
Yeah, but I'm trying to remember which John Cusack movie they kind of blend together.
Because he did another one with the same guy.
Which one was it when he was the assassin?
Oh, no, that's in the 90s, man. That's much later.
Blank.
Gross Point Blank, yes.
Okay, yeah.
That's
Better
one of
Off
my
Dead
favorite
was
ones.
another one. Was Better Off Dead
Is
the
that
one
the
like
one
you
with
owe me
Minnie?
$2?
Yes, they owe you owe me $2.
Yeah.
But he'd fallen in love with like the popular girl, and they like kind of were dating for a while, and she dumped him for the other guy, and he ends up liking the girl next door that speaks French. She's just like super quiet at the beginning.
What's the one where he's a cartoon illustrator?
Oh, that was the one where he was in love with Demi Moore.
There's too many of them. High Fidelity.
No, that wasn't High Fidelity.
No.
There's too
I
many.
know what you're talking about though.
High Fidelity is great though.
In the one where he was the illustrator, he was falling in love with Demi Moore.
And that dude, there's like a boat race or something, boat race in that.
It's gonna drive me crazy, so I'm like just looking it up. I know what you're talking about.
This is another one of those where it's like, I want that girl. And then the other girl's like, you don't want that girl, you want me. And he's like, you're right. And then the end of the movie.
I like those movies.
I love John Cusack, to be honest. He's like my man crush.
Yeah.
I think everybody in like the 80s and 90s just wanted to be John Cusack.
It's true.
Because he was kind of like, he was handsome, but he was an everyman too. So you're like, man, if he can get Mini Driver, so can I.
And he likes the Cubs, and and he loves music. And he like every movie, it's like great 80s music too. Like I
wrote a song.
I think I have a Grosse Point Blank soundtrack.
Oh, there you go. We wrote a song. All the lyrics are John Cusack movie titles.
Nice.
Oh yeah, they're not even like John Cusack lines.
So
just
it's
like
like
John Cusack movie titles.
Serendipity.
Yeah, it's called Oh Serendipity.
Does it say Con Air in it?
I think Con Air is like one of the few that we didn't.
Yeah.
say. Like
It's not really much.
I always
you can-
forget that he's in it until I see him. I'm like, wait a minute, what? He's in this
John
movie?
Malkovich.
Why can't I say anything? That's
Dave
not that
Chappelle.
One Crazy Summer
He dies.
is the one you're thinking of.
One Crazy Summer.
I don't think
Yeah.
I've ever seen that one for some odd
You
reason.
should
Such a
watch
great
it.
one.
So he draws his cartoon dog, and the animation it like comes to life every once in a while.
Oh.
So it's pretty fun.
It's like
there was
McGee and Me?
hippos. He
Kind
drew
of not
hippos.
as drastic, but
You know
yeah,
what I'm
very
talking
similar.
about?
And like Demi Moore is really funny in it, but like I want to say it had that weird like almost parody satire humor. If I'm mistaken, someone correct me in the comments or whatever is on this podcast if I'm wrong. But if I remember right, the opening scene is John Cusack and his whole class graduating from high school, and they take off their caps and they're like, "Yay!" and they throw them in the air, and it lands in a kid's temple and kills him, and everyone ignores it. And they're like, "Oh, we graduated!" and then he walks by like a monster truck. And it has a big bow wrapped around. It's like for Joe, and then he walks next to like a smaller truck, but still pretty big, and says for Sam, and then like a Ferrari, and it's like for Joe, and then like his dad got him like I don't know, like a lawnmower or something, like a go-kart or something, and he was like, "Here you go, son." It was like a parody movie kind of, but it wasn't. I don't know.
It's weird.
But it was all this weird humor. I'm like, I'm so here for this. It was really funny.
I'll have to watch it. Well, guys, I think we're going to shut it down early
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
Prepare for next week. That's definitely going to be live because we're going to be at VidCon.
I hope you enjoyed this nostalgic blast from the past episode of Stranger Things. I'm literally like saying the keywords that are going to be in this.
Let us know what you think of Stranger Things if you watch it. We're only 3 episodes in, already love it. And from friends who've already binge watched the entire thing, they said it's the best season so far. So high hopes.
So make sure you stay tuned for next week too. We'll be talking about, I actually don't remember what we're talking about.
Oh no, we'll figure it out.
They'll know then.
Well, yeah, there you go.
Bye.
Bye.